What happens when Hollywood magic meets real bodies that refuse to stay small? We remember these stars frozen in perfect frames, sharp jawlines, and tailored suits. But behind the camera, some of old Hollywood's biggest legends grew far beyond what studios wanted you to see. Not a little heavier, not a phase. We're talking dramatic changes that shaped careers, rewrote scenes, and altered legacies. And one of these transformations was hidden in plain sight the whole time. Number 10. Laird Cregar. He was too big for Hollywood. Then, Hollywood pushed him too far. Laird Cregar arrived in films during the early 1940s, already towering in presence and size. Standing over 6 feet tall and weighing well beyond 300 pounds, he didn't look like the clean-cut heroes studios loved. Instead, he radiated weight, gravity, and authority. That made him unforgettable in darker roles in films like The Lodger, released in 1944. Critics noticed immediately. Cregar didn't just fill the screen, he controlled it. His voice felt older than his years. His movements carried weight in every sense. But behind the praise, studio executives whispered the same thing. He's talented, but he's too big. They wanted change, fast change. Cregar responded the only way a young actor under pressure could. Extreme dieting, endless workouts, pushing his body far past safe limits. In less than a year, he lost an enormous amount of weight. On screen, he looked transformed. Off screen, his body was breaking. Just weeks after finishing Hangover Square in 1945, Cregar collapsed following surgery related to the stress he put himself under. He was only 28 years old. Hollywood finally got the lean leading man look it wanted. But it came at a terrible cost. Cregar's story isn't about excess alone. It's about what happens when an industry decides your body matters more than your talent. Number 9. Jackie Gleason. America laughed with him. Few noticed how fast the weight was taking over. When Jackie Gleason burst into homes through The Honeymooners in the early 1950s, he was already a big man. Broad shoulders, heavy build. But his size fit the character. Ralph Cramden wasn't meant to be sleek. He was loud, frustrated, and larger than life. As fame grew, so did Gleason. By the mid-1950s, he had crossed well beyond 300 pounds. Meals were massive, drinks flowed freely. Physical activity faded out of his daily life. His size became part of the joke. The audience laughed when he squeezed into furniture or struggled to move fast. But behind the scenes, movement became harder. Breathing grew heavier. Physical comedy slowly disappeared from his work. Directors adjusted camera angles. Scenes became more stationary. Gleason refused to change. When warned about his health, he brushed it off. He believed living fully mattered more than limits. And for a while, it worked. By the 1970s, the toll was visible. He moved slower, spoke slower. The big presence that once powered the comedy now confined it. Jackie Gleason didn't hide his size. He embraced it. But his story shows how laughter can sometimes drown out warning signs until the body decides it's had enough. Number 8. Edward Arnold. Hollywood power roles didn't need dialogue. His body said it all. Edward Arnold was never meant to play ordinary men. From the 1930s through the 1950s, he almost exclusively portrayed wealthy bosses, ruthless executives, and powerful figures who dominated rooms before speaking a word. Why? Because Arnold was massive. At nearly 300 pounds for most of his career, his size became visual shorthand for authority. When he entered a scene, you instantly understood the balance of power. Directors leaned into it. His bulk symbolized excess, control, and influence. Arnold didn't fight this image. He accepted it. His weight wasn't a problem. It was a tool. But tools wear down. Walking long distances became difficult. Standing for extended scenes required breaks. Health issues quietly built up behind the confident performances. Yet the roles never changed. Hollywood kept asking him to play men who consumed too much of everything. By the mid-1950s, his body finally gave out. He passed away in 1956 at 66 years old. Edward Arnold built a career on looking powerful, but the same size that sold that image also shortened the life behind it. Number 7. W.C. Fields. The comedy wasn't just in the face. The body told a darker story. W.C. Fields looked like the joke before he spoke. Puffy face, heavy belly, slow movements. Audiences assumed it was part of the act, a lovable grouch wrapped in a round body. But Fields wasn't simply heavy. His appearance was shaped by years of poor health choices. His abdomen swelled. His face grew bloated. Fluid retention distorted his frame. What looked like comedy weight was actually medical distress. As the 1940s rolled on, filming became harder. He tired quickly. Scenes were shortened. Directors worked around his limits. Yet the public never noticed. They laughed just as loudly. By the time he made his final films, Fields struggled to stand for long periods. His body had become inflamed and fragile. The humor remained sharp. The cost stayed hidden. He passed away in 1946, leaving behind a legacy of laughter built on a body that had been quietly failing for years. W.C. Fields reminds us that sometimes the joke masks the struggle, and sometimes the audience never sees the difference. Number 6. Victor Buono. He joked about his size. His body never laughed back. Victor Buono entered Hollywood with a commanding presence. Tall, heavy, brilliantly expressive. In films like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, released in 1962, his size added menace and depth. But the weight didn't stop growing. By the early 1970s, Buono had reached nearly 400 pounds. Movement became difficult. Standing for long scenes was exhausting. Roles became narrower. Villains, comic figures, characters whose size became the point. Buono leaned into humor. He joked about dieting. He joked about eating. On talk shows, the laughs came easily. Off camera, the strain was severe. Breathing problems, heart issues. Daily life became harder with each year. In 1982, Victor Buono passed away at just 43 years old. He used humor as armor. But even the sharpest wit can't protect a body under constant pressure. Number 5. Rosco Arbuckle. His size made him famous. Then it made him impossible to escape. Rosco Arbuckle didn't just carry weight, he built a career on it. In the silent era, when faces and bodies did all the talking, Arbuckle stood out immediately. He was large, very large, well over 250 pounds at a time when most people were far slimmer. Audiences loved the contrast. A massive man who could move lightly, fall gracefully, dance with surprising speed. His size became the joke and the miracle at the same time. Studios leaned in hard. They didn't just accept his body, they named him after it. But the same body that brought laughter also trapped him. Every role depended on his size. Every gag required his weight. And when public opinion shifted, that body became a target instead of a punchline. Cartoons exaggerated him. Headlines focused on his shape more than facts. His image turned from funny to frightening almost overnight. Even after his name was cleared, the damage stuck. Studios walked away. Screens went dark. Arbuckle's story isn't just about being heavy. It's about how quickly the industry can turn a body into a symbol. First for joy, then for blame, and finally for erasure. Number 4. Charles Laughton. One of the greatest minds in cinema, trapped inside a body Hollywood never forgave. Charles Laughton was never small. From the start, his frame was broad, heavy, and unmistakable. Around 250 pounds for much of his career, he didn't fit the clean hero image studios preferred. But what he lacked in physical elegance, he made up for in command. His performances were precise, intelligent, uncomfortable in the best way. Films like The Private Life of Henry VIII, released in 1933, turned his size into historical truth instead of a flaw. Still, Limits followed him everywhere. Romantic leads were off the table. Hero roles rarely came. Instead, he played rulers, outcasts, and strange figures who carried weight both emotional and physical. He knew it. He felt it. He spoke openly about watching lesser talents get roles simply because they fit the shape Hollywood wanted. Laughton tried dieting, lost weight, gained it back, over and over. Stress pulled him toward food. Food pulled him further from freedom. He built a legendary career anyway. But you can feel the frustration beneath the brilliance. A sense that something more was always just out of reach. His talent was enormous. Hollywood just couldn't see past the rest of him. Number 3. Sidney Greenstreet. He didn't grow large. He arrived that way and turned it into power. Sidney Greenstreet made his film debut late in life. When he stepped onto the screen in The Maltese Falcon, released in 1941, he was already over 300 pounds. And he didn't try to hide it. Directors didn't ask him to shrink. They framed him carefully. Suits were tailored like architecture. Movement was deliberate. His size became calm menace. A man who didn't need to rush because the room already belonged to him. Unlike others on this list, Greenstreet never chased transformation. His body was part of the role from day one. He leaned into elegance instead of apology. That confidence made him unforgettable, but the body still paid a price. Walking short distances left him winded. Standing too long caused pain. Health problems followed quietly behind the polished performances. His career burned bright but short. Just a handful of years before illness forced him away from the screen. Greenstreet proves that size can be strength on camera, but off camera, gravity always wins. Number 2. Marlon Brando. Hollywood's perfect body didn't disappear. It expanded beyond control. In the 1950s, Marlon Brando defined physical presence: lean, powerful, magnetic. Then something changed. By the time The Godfather arrived in 1972, Brando was already carrying significant weight. The famous padded cheeks weren't hiding it. They were working with it. Then came Apocalypse Now, released in 1979. When Brando arrived on set, the plan collapsed. He was far heavier than expected. Scripts were rewritten. Lighting turned darker. Scenes shifted into shadow. What looked like artistic choice was survival. By the 1980s, Brando's weight soared well past 300 pounds. Movement slowed. Costumes widened. Entire productions bent around his body. He remained brilliant. But the body controlled the camera now. Brando's transformation wasn't sudden. It was gradual, comfortable, unchecked. And once it crossed a line, there was no going back. The greatest actor of his generation became a lesson in what happens when no one tells you no. Number 1. Orson Welles. From cinematic genius to a body too big for the frame, Orson Welles began as a marvel, tall, handsome, sharp-featured. When Citizen Kane released in 1941, he looked like a future leading man with a towering mind. Then, the years added weight. Fast. By the 1950s, his appetite matched his ambition. Meals were enormous. Costumes needed constant changes. By the 1960s and 70s, Welles had crossed well beyond 300 pounds. Filming became complicated. Chairs were reinforced. Shots avoided full-body views. Insurance companies hesitated. Directors planned scenes around how long he could stand. The famous wine commercials from the late 1970s shocked audiences. Not because of the voice, but because of the body delivering it. Welles knew. He joked. He deflected. But the truth lingered. His body limited his freedom long before his ideas ran out. The man who redefined cinema became trapped inside himself. So next time you see a perfectly framed classic, ask yourself what the camera chose not to show. Old Hollywood sold us illusions. But bodies tell their own stories. Some of these men fought their size. Others embraced it. All of them paid a price. Now I want to hear from you. Which transformation surprised you most? And which one changed how you see these films? Drop your thoughts below. Share this with a fellow movie fan, and remember, legends don't stay frozen. They grow, change, and sometimes crack under the weight.